Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you'd like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And today, our guest is Don Cooke. Hi, Don.
Hey, Judith, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. Tell us all about you, Don.
Well, all about me. My career has been interesting. I think the best described as unconventional.
Cool.
As a business owner, I've been practicing for about 30 years. And in that time, get ready, it's a long list. I've worked as a consultant, as a mentor, as an interim director into other companies. My background really is in technology. So within technology, I've been a team leader, a program manager, and lots of different development jobs. More latterly, a sort of an e-learning specialist working on some of the biggest e-learning projects in the country. So that's me.
That's brilliant. That sounds pretty full on, Don.
Well, I do get busy, yes. I also have time to support people as well. I love networking, so I'm quite a giver as regarding networking. Anything that I can do to help people, I just embrace it. And over time, I found that that's a really helpful position to take in business, because opportunities do tend to come your way by chance initially. And the more people that you know and really understand and try and help, the more of those opportunities come your way.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what's interesting is, I would say that, having known you for a while, that you are a socialized maverick, and socialized mavericks really do have large networks, and they're very giving to that network. So it does seem to suit you to a T. Would you agree?
I do think so. I think that, more conformist people in situations where they feel they're in a nice, comfortable role, and that's all they do, and all they have to spend their time on, may have a fine career, but it'll only be a fine career in that little self-contained box. Whereas more of a sort of free spirit and having a bit of a maverick opportunity seeking attitude will enable you to kind of to create more opportunities and be a bit more diverse. That's just my opinion.
That makes sense. So when I was thinking about interviewing you, I was thinking, gosh, you've done so much. It's so difficult to think about what to interview you. But what kind of brought it together for me is your ability to be quite clear as to what you want and how to get there. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about sort of clarity around business processes. Is that something you'd like to talk about?
Well, I think for a long time that's really what our business focused on. We looked as a team towards working with other teams and helping them to work well, particularly when the members of the team were dispersed or distributed. So really being very clear internally, it basically enables you to. It's all about motivation. It's all about being able to provide a team with a culture where they really understand what's going on. And to achieve that requires you as an individual leader to have focus. And focus means planning and commitment to stay on course, regardless of how hard it is and regardless of how long it takes. So if you can show through your actions to any team that you've got focus and you've got commitment, then you get motivation from them. So it's particularly when people are working in different locations, it gets highlighted really, because the individual gets cabin fever, really feels as though they're out of sync with the wider picture, unless the actual leadership embrace what it is to work as individuals and values them as individuals, regardless of where they're working. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because the way that the world is going in terms of technical advances, it enables people to work from all over the place. But there's a real reluctance from corporate to have people work remotely because they don't think that they can lead these individuals. Is there a way of doing it, whether it's technologically or a way of thinking that you think would be easier to lead these remote workers?
I think there certainly is, and I've been party to lots of different teams over the years I've been in business. Some of which were remote by nature. It's the way they did business. Some embraced it and allowed various parts of the team to work remotely, and some parts to be constrained by having to. If you're say a customer facing or an end client visiting member of staff, you can't do those roles remotely. But certainly for a lot of where you actually working with process, where you're working with systems, there's nothing to stop me being here in Oxford tonight, or being in London in your office, or being in America, or being wherever I wanted to be in the world. As you know, we're 300 miles away, Judith, and we're still having this conference call.
I know. So for a larger organisation then, how can they ensure that they do have that clarity in their business process to enable that to happen and the other productive things that need to happen within an organisation?
Well, we say our process comes down to 3 C's. 3 C's are communication, in other words, being clear and forthright and consistent in what you're saying. Collaboration, e.g., find out what people are trying to do with fellow team members and then facilitate that through technology or through process. And control, e.g., know what you're doing as in terms of your leadership. Be very clear about your planning and make sure that other people are involved in that process, so that if you get those 3 C's right, any team, regardless of whether they're office-based or whether they're distributed, will gain an improvement in performance, I would say.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think maybe the bit that the companies seem to fail at the most is the communication bit. It's either too much or too little.
I don't think it's unusual. I think you see there's communication, a dialogue between 2 people, and there's people who think that telling is the same as sharing ideas. And by sharing ideas and actually collaboratively working on projects with your staff, firstly, you're valuing them, and secondly, the level of communication that's right establishes itself because there's a dialogue and an interaction between both parties.
That makes sense. So in terms of clarity, what other areas do you think an organisation should focus particularly on clarity?
Well, I think basically looking a while away from the business and out towards customers. I think it's really essential for any business, particularly small business, to really hear and communicate and get clarity about what customers require, where the customer need is. And by working in dialogue, forming relationships with people who may be prospective customers, that's where those initial opportunities happen. Let me divert a little bit, and I'll tell you a story here.
Yeah.
A long time ago, say about 20 years ago, myself and my business partner pitched to CEDA, that South East New England Development Agency. We pitched to them for some investment funding. Now, the project that we were after funding for really required a larger team and a much higher budget than we could drum up ourselves. So we had a few angels who actually courted us through that period, and we didn't get the funding. Now, that's not really where the story finishes. You think, oh, hold on a minute. They went for funding, they didn't get the funding. What we also did is got a relationship in place with that angel, and that led to a very high involvement in some of their other businesses. because they got to know me as a practitioner and what we did as a business, and they wanted that stuff. So what I would say is that any initial opportunity really comes to you through luck. It's what you do, the people you get out and meet, the conversations that you have. Any repeat business or associated business comes through you being really clear in them understanding, having a trust with you, understanding what your skills are and what your motivations are, and also having the right skills for them, because everybody, say if I get hungry and I want a sandwich, I will go to somebody that sells the kind of sandwiches that I want, that satisfies my hunger. And in business, it's no different. People will realise that some aspects of the business are strong, some aspects are not so strong, and they will happily buy the services from people who offer them. But if the same people turned around to them and said, "Hey, guess what I do? I have loads of sandwiches. Look, they're on trays. Wonderful." And here they all are. You're going to feel, hold on a minute, like somebody's trying to flog me sandwiches. And that's a natural human response. So you have to put time and energy into having a clear understanding of what your prospective customer wants, what they want to buy, not what you want to sell them, which is it's a key learning point there, I think.
I agree. I think when I do work with smaller clients, the SMEs, one of the biggest issues I see is that they're not clear on what it is that they do, what their business proposition is. And even that's whether they've been in business for a year, 5 years, 30 years, it's a common problem. Everybody is fighting so hard to be the same as everybody else and then wonder why they can't sell anything. Or they run off, and go to a marketing specialist who gives them something that sounds great, but it has no real meaning to what the business does. And it can be really frustrating because you say, you meet someone networking or something and you ask them what they do and they say, "I'm a coach." And you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? And then they can't tell you. And I think it's...
In my experience, yeah, sorry.
Go on.
Well, I was going to say, Judith, is my experience, the thing that marketing specialists give you is a big bill.
Oh, that might be a little bit unfair.
Yeah, they present you with a huge invoice and you're left thinking, yeah, okay, but this common sense has come very expensive to me.
Oh dear. Yeah, I think that's sitting down and working out. I think when I think about it, actually, it's an interplay, isn't it? It isn't just about what you want to sell. It's about what you're passionate about, what your skills are, what's the unique thing that you bring, but also what the market wants to buy as well. And I think maybe the focus is wrong, that people spend a lot of time trying to work out what the market wants to buy, when I think they should work out what it is that they feel they should be doing. So not necessarily what they feel they should be selling, but what is it that they want to do? And then think about whether there's a market that would buy it. Would that make sense?
Well, if you have clarity about where your skills are and what you offer, then the conversations that you have, which will create opportunities, are going to be much more effective. It's like your networking example. You got somebody, you say, what do you do? And they say, "Oh, I'm a coach." And you're left thinking, yeah, but so's the number 7 boss. That's a coach as well. I'm not understanding what you do, Or they say, "I'm a consultant." And you say, "Well, good for you. So am I." Or they say, "I know something about marketing." And you think, "Well, actually, I've been in business for 30 years and we haven't gone bust. So maybe I do as well." So I think that you need to take the time and you need to be quite clear about what it is you offer. But also, as I say, in the same way that a non-maverick might be stuck in the room doing the same thing their whole career, I think a practitioner, somebody who meets with the marketplace and provides services to them, they also need to be really cautious about being stuck in the room. They need to be able to think of, actually, the market's changing direction. Can I serve that? can I turn something that somebody has said, which isn't quite what I do, into a new line of business? So that's quite non-maverick. That's quite maverick, sorry. Because conventional thinking would be, I sell windows, that's what I do. Somebody asks for a drain pipe, you say, no, I sell windows. Kind of that. But in a tradesman, when it's a product you're selling, that's fine. But when it's professional services, the only thing differentiating you is the amount that you know and the amount of trust that your clients have in you. So you need to be flexible. You need to be quite maverick.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's recognising what solution you provide rather than what service you want to sell can make the difference. I mean, I say now that there's only two real things that I do, which is either working with wannabe mavericks and maverick entrepreneurs to expand their work, or working with companies that need a maverick approach to their leadership because what they have isn't working. So my hope would be that would be clear enough to the marketplace as to the types of people that I can help and to serve. Obviously wrapped around, other content. But if I was networking, it would be something like that, I would say. Would that work for you, do you think? Do you think that makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense to me. And I think the thing that really strikes me as very impressive about your career, Judith, is that all the time that I've known you for more than 10 years now, all the time, this is what you've been a practitioner in. You've written books on the subject. You've done a podcast on the subject. You've done, I don't know how many presentations on the subject. And you really understand working with your customers. They've got a good view about what you do and what you specialize in. And in the same way, although you may have remolded your brand a little bit over the years, you may have embraced other things that enabled you to step out and do training in different areas. You've been so consistent. And you've had so much clarity. It's really easy for somebody engaging with you to understand where you can add value.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I don't know what to say. It's not often I'm speechless, but you've done that. But yeah, I think for me, my aim would be, because it's the same like when I'm working with leaders in business, it's like, that, like you were saying about clarity, that clarity of thought. I mean, as I say, recently I did some training on strategic thinking and creative thinking, and it's all about making sure you're clear about what it is that you want to achieve before you set out, or what it is that you want your followers to know and to do. Be clear about it, and kind of be clear about yourself as an individual, because quite often, people say they want to be developed as a leaders. And my question is, who would want to follow you? What is it about you that makes you worth following? I mean, do I trust you? Do your people trust you? And if they can't trust you, then they're not going, well, a maverick's not moving one step forward if they're not trusting you.
Absolutely.
We're probably at a good spot now then to wrap up. And you would be coming back at a later date to tell me more.
I'd love to.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Don as much as I enjoyed having it. If you would like to learn more about Mavericks and leadership, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, apply to join the Maverick Paradox exclusive Facebook group. My website is maverickparadox.com. Find out how willful independence can ultimately change all our futures. Thanks again, and see you soon.